So friends, welcome to today's session. And in today's session, I'll be talking about things like comparison of sociology with other social sciences. So I'll be talking about these things. So what I'll be doing today is that I'll be talking about the comparison of sociology with other social sciences. We have already finished this modernity, social changes in Europe, and how sociology as a separate discipline, as a distinct discipline emerged. Then yesterday I talked about the scope of sociology. Now I'll be talking about the comparison of sociology with other social sciences. So this slide I've already shown you earlier. We'll be talking about this part today, comparison of sociology with other social sciences, and after that we'll be talking about sociology in common sense. This is the same set of questions that I've shown you earlier, okay, yesterday's class. The same set of questions are here also. Now, as far as comparison of sociology with other social sciences is concerned, see, these many comparisons I'll be giving it to you. And the idea line is to give you as much fodder points as possible so that in case a question comes, you have a sufficient fodder points to cater to the question. So we have total seven comparisons. We'll be doing 7 comparisons today. And in 7 comparisons, we'll be talking about 4 comparisons today itself in today's lecture. We'll be talking about political science, economy, psychology, and ethics. Okay. And in tomorrow's class, that is comparison of sociology with other social sciences, part 2, we'll be talking about philosophy, history, and anthropology. Okay, so we'll be comparing sociology with political science, sociology with economy, sociology with psychology, sociology with ethics today. In part 2, we'll be talking about sociology with versus philosophy, sociology versus history, sociology versus anthropology. Okay, so I think this much of comparison will suffice to cater to any kind of a question that can come from this particular subunit. Now, first thing first is political science. Okay, political science. And you might find some kind of a repetition also, because we have to generate points. Okay, so that for 10 mark, 20 mark, you have sufficient content. Okay, so try to appreciate the content and try to do or indulge in some kind of a brainstorming. In case you have any other queries, any other problems, or for that matter, any kind of a doubt you have, please do connect. Okay, please do connect. Now, political science. See, I'm giving a very basic definition, and that definition is that what is sociology? Okay, what is sociology? So I'm just telling you like what is sociology. So very basic definition I'm giving you, that is given by Kingsley Davis, and it says that sociology is a general science of society. Sociology is a general science of society. Okay, use this definition. It's very good definition, short and crisp definition this is. Then political science, as per famous scholar Paul Jennett, he writes that political science is concerned with the foundations of the state and principles of government. Okay, so basically political science is what? It is a science of government. Okay, it is a science of government, like how the government is formed. Okay, overall scientific study of the state, government, politics, and all those things. And examples for to give an example of political science, like you can talk about Panchayati Raj institutions. When you talk about Panchayati Raj institutions, what you say? You talk about like various provisions that are present under Panchayati Raj institutions, like manner of elections, then reservation, then duration of tenure, and etc. So all these things comes under the domain of political science. Okay, political science. And then we have a sub-discipline called political sociology. Political sociology. Okay, we'll talk about the political sociology also. So each and every subjects where we are talking about different kind of a comparison, I'll be giving you all the different kind of a fodder points. And see, when you talk about some kind of a sources to refer for sociology, see, generally we suggest students to cater to or attend all the lectures properly, because once you attend all the lectures, you'll have sufficient fodder points. Okay, because once you attend the lecture, you can go back and see the PYQs. You will be able to answer all the PYQs, most of the PYQs. In case if you want to refer more, you can always go back and refer our Sunya notes, hard copy notes for paper 1 and paper 2. Okay, and beyond that, you don't need any kind of a source. Okay, you need not refer Harlem Bose, George Ritzer for paper 1, or for that matter any other book. That is not required. It's just kind of a sheer wastage of time. But if you want to read, I cannot stop you for that thing. Okay, now certain key thinkers, I'm talking about certain key thinkers who combined political science and sociology. Just look into, first thing is Karl Marx. What Karl Marx has said, okay, I'll be going a bit of fast today because there's a lot of things that has to be covered. He divided the whole society into two parts. Okay, this is basically called this is called base, and this is called superstructure. Okay, base means economic institutions. This is economic institutions, and everything else that doesn't forms a part of economic institutions, like political institutions, then you can say religion, education, family, marriage, everything falls under the domain of this superstructure. So he saw society like this, and he said that economic institution is the foundation of society. The kind of economic institution we have, the kind of economic relationship we have here, this is going to determine the kind of political institution, religion, education, family, marriage, the kind of society we have. So this always have a drastic influence, or have a drastic influence on the superstructure. So when he saw society like this, the whole part, how he's trying to envisage things, he was trying to connect what? Society is what? Studying of society is what? Sociology. So what he's trying to do is, he was trying to connect sociology with political institutions. Okay, so this is how you say, because we'll be discussing about the Karl Marx in a lot of detail when we'll talk about Unit 4 Karl Marx. Okay, so he also tried to find out the relationship between sociology and political science. Okay, understand this part. Then comes Max Weber. Max Weber did a thorough study on power, or you can say, more apt word is authority. Authority is nothing but it is a legitimized power. Legitimized power. When you have all the, you can say that whatever power you exercise, it is as per the rules and regulation. So that is more than enough, okay, to call it an authority. So when you have a legitimate power and exercise that legitimate power, it becomes an authority. So authority comes under the domain of what? It comes under the domain of political science only, right? Who is exercising authority, under what rules they are exercising authority, and this authority, different forms of authority he gives. He talks about legal rational authority, he talks about traditional authority, he talks about charismatic authority, and how these kind of an authority have an impact on society. Just like legal rational authority makes a sense that society is very rational, because legal rational authority signifies a modern society. Modern society. Okay, are you able to appreciate the connect? Okay, then comes Antonio Gramsci. Even he was talking about power structure. I talked about Antonio Gramsci yesterday. He was talking about power structure, and how he was saying that certain minority group of people are able to maintain their hegemony over the majority of the population, not only through coercion, but also through concessions. That is why I mentioned this Antonio Gramsci yesterday also when I was talking about neo-Marxist. Okay, so when I talk about, just a minute. So when I was talking about things like that bourgeoisie class, they give certain concession to the people, right? Concession to the workers, so that the people don't retaliate against the bourgeoisie class. That means what? They are simply not able to maintain their hegemony, their control over the working class people through coercion, but they also have to give some kind of concession, like bonus of social security, some net, okay, something like that. Now, Immanuel Wallerstein was also talking about dependency theory. Okay, dependency theory. By the way, Karl Marx, Max Weber, Antonio Gramsci, all these thinkers I'll be talking about in a lot of detail in the upcoming units. Immanuel Wallerstein, again, I'll be talking about him in a lot of detail in our unit 10 of paper 1. He talked about dependency theory, that how certain class of countries, that is developing nations, they are being exploited. They are being exploited by the developed nation. So there is a power differential that is working. Power differential that is working. And this power differential is working. Reason is because these developed nations, they are controlling most of the resources. They are technologically advanced. They have all the economic resources, economically very, very powerful. So that is why the conditions that are prevailing in the underdeveloped countries, least developed countries, it is why it is not natural. It is because of caused by the man, and the man who is ruling the developed nation. So these conditions are artificially created by humans so that one country could exploit the another country. So there is always a power differential that is working. And that power differential comes under the domain of what? Political science. And that power differential, what kind of a society it creates, what kind of a social condition it creates, both in the developed and the developing nation, what kind of a relationship that they have, okay, both the different countries, that comes under the domain of what? Sociology, right? Then comes Rajni Kothari. See, Rajni Kothari, very renowned sociologist, Indian sociologist. He only said that in India, you cannot separate caste with politics and politics with caste. Politics with caste. Okay? So I think this is very implicit. Next, we talked about Wilfred Pareto and Gaetano Mosca. See, Wilfred Pareto and Gaetano Mosca, I'll use it some other slide. Wilfredo Pareto and Gaetano Mosca. Again, we'll be talking about them in our unit 7 of paper 1. Okay, it's just that I'm trying to help you understand the relationship between sociology and political science. They said that elite rule is inevitable. Inevitable. Elite means what? Certain group of people who are in minority, they have certain capabilities, certain qualities they possess, because of which they are able to rule over majority of the population. Majority of the population. And when they talk about elite rule, they talk about what? Rule by few. And that is called oligarchy. So what kind of a rule we have, what kind of a government we have, who is controlling that government, this all comes under the domain of what? Political science. And what impact does it have on the society? It comes under the domain of sociology. So again, a kind of an intersection. Okay, like Wilfred Pareto was talking about a circulation of elite. Circulation of elite. And that circulation means lions and foxes. Sometimes lions are ruling, sometimes foxes are ruling. Lions are very conservative. They are elites who are very conservative, very orthodox. Okay, while foxes are very shrewd. They go for change. Okay, they are manipulative in nature. They don't bring change. So basically they focus upon order and stability. So these are two group of people, lions and foxes. Even Gaetano Mosca says that elite rule. Why? Because they have some organizational abilities, because of which they are able to rule over the masses. Like maybe they are able to manage the work of the working class people, channelize their energy to maintain or produce some kind of goods and services, okay, manage their activities. So that is why they are able to rule over others. Okay, so you can see that various kind of a thinkers that I've talked about, where who combine political science and sociology. Now I'll be talking about things like mutual relationship between political science and sociology. Just appreciate the kind of fodder points, try to appreciate the kind of fodder points that we have generated here. The first thing is that both political science and sociology, they both are interrelated. How they're interrelated? Like first, if I see here citizenship. So citizenship we study both in sociology as well as in political science, but they both will study from a different perspective. That is why they're interrelated. The subject matter, the topics are same in both the subjects, okay, but how they study it, that is completely different. Like for political science, they'll study citizenship as the matter of like how to gain citizenship, okay, rules and laws related with this, okay, under what condition they can lose citizenship, like that. But what about sociology? They'll talk about that if you are a citizen, you are entitled for certain rights. What kind of a rights you enjoy by being a citizen of any particular country, okay, that what kind of a social security benefits that you enjoy, like that, like impact on the society. This is how we talk about. We talk about democracy. Democracy in political science means what? It means that what we say is that there is a government as per will of the people, government for the people, by the people, to the people, all those things we can talk about, okay. But when you talk about democracy in sociology, what we say, we use these words very commonly, that is a democratization of family. Democratization of family. There's a democratization of education. What do you mean by that? It means that if you look into democracy, each and every person vote has the same power. So there's a diffusion of power that we talk about. Here, see, dictating notes will not be difficult. But if I start dictating notes, what will happen? This lecture will go for a very long time. Okay, it might go for 3 hours. Okay, so this video will always be present there. You can simply pause it. I can understand that if you want to simply want me to dictate the notes, but it become quite hectic for you also, and the duration of the lecture will also be quite long. Okay, so just try to understand. You can always go back and look at this lecture in the YouTube. Always, it will always be there. So coming back, democracy means what? Each and every person vote has the same power. So democracy means what? There's a diffusion of power. Power is distributed. Everybody is equally enjoying the same quantum of power. So when we say democratization of family, then it means that each and every member of the family is enjoying the same quantum of power. So if there's any particular important decision that has to be taken in the family, like with respect to property, with respect to buying of a car, each and every opinions are taken into consideration before coming to a conclusion, like that. Like this means what? Then the patriarchal mindset will be completely dismantled. Everybody is equal. When we talk about democratization of education, what does it mean? It means that now certain, like earlier, if you talk about the caste system, only certain people, they were entitled to get educated or to get education. Now education is the basic right of each and every citizen. Each and every child has the right to get educated. Okay, so this is how we talk about things. This is how you have to envisage things. Okay, and they're very easy. Next, we talk about interdependence. When you talk about interdependence, Sanskritization. Sanskritization, you know, Sanskritization, I'll just briefly explain it to you. And then I'll talk about alcohol law also. I'll use another slide. Sanskritization means, you know, we have a Varna system. Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And then there are Avarnas like SC and STs. So if any particular caste who belong to the lower rank like Shudra, SC, STs, and if over the period of time they start emulating the beliefs and practices of the higher caste, like Shudras is now started imbibing the overall life practice, cultural practice of the Brahmins for 100 200 years. So what will happen? They will be Sanskritized. They will be Sanskritized. Now Brahmins will accept them, certain group of the Shudras, that they are one of them. Okay, so this is called Sanskritization. They will move up the religious ladder, because now those certain groups within the Shudra will be treated as a Brahmins. Okay, and basically the group go for Sanskritization to increase their social prestige, honor, okay, to increase their status in a social ladder, in a religious ladder. This is what we talk about. Okay, now when we talk about Sanskritization, how it is helping you, if you go here, how it is helping you to go for a connection with respect to interdependence. Understand this thing, that this is a concept that is being taught in sociology. But when they talk about sociological concept of Sanskritization, they say that lower caste people get Sanskritized. As lower caste people get Sanskritized, what will happen? They will now become aware of their rights, and thus a kind of a vote bank. And how the people vote, on what basis, these all things comes under the domain of political science. Okay, so you can connect things, right? Similarly, yet another thing was like alcohol law. Here alcohol law, when you talk about the laws, rules and regulation, what are the provisions of the law, these are all the domain of political science, right? But when alcohol law, suppose, was formed, like why the alcohol was banned in a particular state, so why it is done? Because it was creating certain issues, alcoholism was creating certain issues, and thus alcohol, banning the alcohol was necessary to make sure there is no domestic violence. So to decrease the, to reduce or completely reject, or whatever you want to say, completely make sure that there is no domestic violence, so alcohol law was banned. Okay, then you can also say that it might lead to things like female empowerment, or more apt will be family empowerment. Why? Because earlier whatever money was used to buy and consume alcohol, now that money will be used to meet the basic necessities of family. Basic necessities of family, nutritious need, education need of an children, of the members of the family, like that. So this is leading to what? Creating more inclusive society. Okay, creating more inclusive society, ensuring the principle of social justice, like that. Okay, now next we talk about is psephological study. See, psephological study means what? It is a scientific study of election, and this scientific study is generally done to make sure to checkmate the opponents, like how the people is going to vote. So these psephological studies are generally being done by the opponents to checkmate their scientific studies of the election is being done by the political party to checkmate their opponents. Okay, to checkmate their opponent and make sure they go for some kind of a political forecasting. Okay, so when we talk about scientific study of election and voting pattern, okay, to go for political forecasting, so what you're going to do? See, this election, voting pattern, everything comes under the domain of political science. But again, voting pattern is depend upon various social factors. What is social factors? Religion, caste, even to extent gender, even to the extent ethnicity, son of soil policy, like that. Okay, so again there is a kind of a relationship between political science and sociology. Then comes interdisciplinary. See, this division of labor is again common in both sociology and political science. But while talking about division of labor, while explaining division of labor, they take help from the third discipline. Okay, here they were taking the help from each other. Like Sanskritization in sociology, while explaining Sanskritization, they were taking the help of political science. While talking about alcohol law, which is a domain of political science, they are taking the help of sociology. But here, this topic, which is common to both of them, here they take in help from the third discipline. Like when you talk about division of labor, in sociology, they say that division of labor, as division of labor increases, it leads to what? Increased solidarity. There'll be more cohesiveness. Division of labor is what? When you completely break the whole task into small tasks and assign those small tasks to a specialized person. So that leads to increased solidarity because everybody is dependent upon each other. This is from sociological perspective. But when we talk about things like division of labor in political science, okay, what we say, that division of labor increases what? It increases efficiency of work, optimum utilization of resources, because division of labor means what? Work is assigned, there's a complete separation of power in terms of legislative, judiciary, executive. Remember I talked about Montesquieu? So in that sense you can say there is an efficiency of work that will happen here. Okay, and here you say that sociology, division of labor increases solidarity, and there also means that the work will be done in a very efficient manner. Okay, that thing also you can add here. So this is basically a mutual relationship between political science and sociology. Okay, now difference between political science and sociology, this is just a table. Just try to appreciate the points. See, with respect to scope, like what is the domain of sociology, it is more broader because we are talking about differences. So I have to generate points so that it looks contrasting in nature. So it is more broader compared to political science because here we are only dealing with rules, regulations, government, okay, all those things. But here we're talking about not only political institutions, we are also dealing with economic institutions, religious institutions, family, marriage, everything. So political institution is one of the part of sociology. That is why the scope is very broad here. When you talk about the focus, they focus not only upon society but also human behavior, social changes, social institutions. But there in political science, they talk about types of political parties, political ideologies, voting pattern, forms of government, and all those things. Then when talked about data, here we focus both upon stats, which means quantitative data, and also the rich data, like how many people have voted for a particular party. So that we have a particular number, like out of 100%, 20% voted for a political party 1, another 15% voted for political party 2, another 10% voted for political party 3, like that. So we have a number, a percentage. But rich data means why they voted for that particular party. Okay, but in political science we generally deal with primarily with respect to only numbers, 20%, 15%, 10%, like that. Okay, because I have to write differences between both of them, so that's why I'm writing like that. Okay, so when we talk about stats, we are talking about quantitative data. Rich data means qualitative data. Okay, why part? Primarily when you talk about stats, here we only talk about the quantitative data. Then comes perspective. Here we talk about human to human interaction and social causes. Here we talk about general tendencies. General tendencies means that we are focusing upon mostly the government part. Okay, we are focusing upon the voting pattern, political party, like that. And last is institution. See, because we are dealing with so much of institution, that is why the scope is so broad. We are dealing only with the political institution, that is why the scope of political science is so much narrow. Okay, any doubt till now? Any doubt till now? And once we'll start with the offline, I'll start dictating you things. Okay, don't worry about that you'll not be able to make your notes. I'll make sure that you're able to make your notes properly, holistically, and comprehensively. Don't worry. Now we'll talk about the political sociology. See, political sociology, I am giving you a proper definition. It is an outcome of intersection between sociology and political science, which studies various political institutions, associations, interest groups, power and dynamics in society, and its impact on society and its people. So basically, you are talking about type of government, type of political party, ideologies, and what impact does it have on the society. So there is a kind of an intersection that is working. If this is sociology, if this is political science, so basically you're talking about this part, intersection part, where we say political sociology. Okay. Now, here we say Max Weber study, because Max Weber made a detailed study of authority. Detailed study of authority. And authority is nothing but legitimized power. If you have to define power, power means when you are able to impose your will on others. You are able to get your work done to the extent that even if others don't want the work, don't want to do your work, but still you are able to convince them or coerce them to do your work. To that extent you are powerful. And as per Max Weber, power simply doesn't exist only in the war or the battlefield. Power, differential power, always work in all the fields of life. Like in economic relationship also, there is a power differential between, you can say, master and servant. Someone is boss, someone is simply worker. In political relation also, maybe you can talk about political parties. Some political parties are very powerful, some political parties are weak. So power differential is always working. You can say even in school, teacher versus student. Okay. Even when you go outside, suppose you're giving certain money, certain alms to the beggar, that is a subtle way of showing your economic power, that you are more economic powerful compared to a beggar. That is why you are able to give. You're not taking anything, you are giving only. Okay. So when he talked about the detailed study of the authority, okay, he talked about, I'm again repeating, legal rational authority. He talked about traditional authority. He talked about charismatic authority. Charismatic authority. See, legal rational authority symbolizes or is a part of modern society, where we have a formal bureaucracy. Everything is as per codified rules and regulation. Traditional authority means as per traditions, as per customs. Like in family, if society is patriarchal, so eldest male is the head of the family, right? So this is a tradition that we are simply following. Charismatic authority is like Gandhi ji, Nelson Mandela, like that. People believe, they have this notion that these leaders have certain supernatural power and they can make things work. Okay, like Birsa Munda. All those people have the charismatic authority. And modern society, basically we have a legal rational authority. And what impact does it have? It makes society more rational. So combining sociology with political science. Okay. Then there's a very beautiful line by Lipset and Benedicts. Political sociology is concerned with voting behavior of communities and with economic power and political decision making. So political sociology basically is concerned with voting behavior of communities, how the people are trying to vote, on what grounds they are voting, on what social factor they are voting. It is also dealing with economic power and political decision making. Like who is exercising what kind of a power economically, who are powerful, who are less powerful. Then even political, who is taking the ultimate decision, whether it's for any particular state or whether decision is with respect to any particular group. Okay. So this is about the political sociology. Use these statements, these definitions that I'm giving to you, use these statements, they're going to enrich your answers. Okay. Now, political sociology, certain important things with respect to Indian context. See, agrarian crisis. When we talk about the agrarian crisis, what does it mean? Now, I have given you the basics. How can you connect political science with sociology? Now, you simply talk about and plug all those concepts here one by one. You should get involved in some kind of brainstorming, like agrarian crisis. Okay, so maybe when I'm talking about, suppose, suicide rate, which is very high among the farmers. So this is a social problem that needs to be tackled. But while doing a research, maybe a sociologist will come up with a solution or come up with an insight, a kind of a revelation that maybe whatever laws are there to protect farmers, they are not sufficient, because of which these farmers under economic distress are committing suicide. So laws are not sufficient to protect farmers. So when we talk about the laws, we are talking about its impact on society, that is increased suicide rate among the farmers. When we talk about farm laws, you might have remembered these farm laws, 4 farm laws against which the farmers were retaliating. Farmers were protesting. So the laws, what impact those laws would have been on the society had those laws been implemented. Okay, so again, showing a what? A intersection between sociology and political science. Just like you can talk about APMC Act, Agriculture Produce Marketing Committee Act, APMC Act. So when the sociologists did the research on this APMC Act, they came to a conclusion that the very law which was made or implemented to make sure that this farmers don't go for distress selling, but it is not serving the purpose. So as a result, the government came up with a model APMC, that is Agriculture Produce Marketing Committee, model APMC. They came up with ENAM, like that. Okay, so connect things. Then we have Panchayati Raj. Then when you talk about the Panchayat Raj, you basically talk about what? That Panchayat Raj has certain provisions. Manner of elections, reservation, tenure, what is the funding pattern and all those things. Certain provisions with respect to rules, laws, everything. But what impact does it have on society? Impact does it have on the society? Okay, it helps in making society an inclusive society because of reservation. Increase empowerment of deprived section of society. Deprived section of society, like SC, ST, women. Okay, overall empowerment. Okay, and if a woman is heading any particular panchayati institution, so she will work for the overall education, health of the children in particular area. So this is how we talk about Panchayati Raj. Then we have dynamic society. See, why we say dynamism? This political sociology also capture the dynamism of society, because when we say dynamism, suppose in earlier society, which was in traditional society, it was a caste based society. Okay, earlier society was a caste based society. But now when we talk about the modern society, how it has changed, now there is an equality. And why it is there? Because of certain articles that are present in Constitution, Article 17, prohibition of discrimination, Article 15, Article 16, Article 17. This is leading to what? Creating a equal society where everybody have the right to live a dignified life. Okay, then we have caste groupings becomes political groupings. This is very simple. See, caste groupings are what? Social phenomena, because caste is a social institution. Caste system is a social institution. So when we talk about the caste groupings, now political parties are formed on the basis of certain caste, especially people from the lower caste. They are coming together, forming a political party to address the issue that they have been facing for so many years, like that. Okay, for so many years they have been facing the issue, right? Then we have various movements. You can talk about various movements, like you can talk about linguistic movements. Among them, we can talk about Dravidian movements. Dravidian movements basically like overall rejuvenation of the four South Indian language like Kannada, Tamil, Malayalam, Telugu. So why they were trying to rejuvenate? Because they believe that overall Hindu might be imposed upon, Hindi language might be imposed upon them. Okay, so these various, when they were retaliating against certain laws, provisions, that it might lead to imposition of Hindi laws, Hindi language on them. So this again a kind of you can say intersection between political science and sociology. You can also talk about various kind of a movement like environmental movements. Like law has been made to deforest any particular land. Government has given the grant. Okay, and now because of that grant, it is now creating a local pollution, displacement. Now these people, because it is affecting their very home, they started retaliating and creating a movement, starting a movement against that very project. So this is how you can envisage. Yet another thing that you can talk about is like nativist movement. That people belonging to any particular area, they are not accepting the people migrating from other area to their area because they will eat up the local jobs, right? They will change the whole demography. So this is what we talk about nativist movement. So they'll try to curb the migration, try to make certain laws so that we have son of a soil policy, reservation. So because of social impact, they came up with certain laws that certain number of jobs, maybe 70%, 75%, local jobs should be reserved for the local people, like that. Okay, and then we have a communal conflicts, some kind of a communal conflict that is going on. What is the reason why the communal conflicts are taking place, how it is impacting the society? All these things can be covered under the communal conflicts as well, and this again shows the intersection between the political science and sociology. That is called political. Okay. Any doubt till now? See, we have covered this political science. Then I'll be talking about economics. Okay? In the same manner, we'll be talking about the economics also. So, what is economics? What is economics? It's all about production, distribution, consumption of goods and services. Production, distribution, consumption of goods and services. Okay, and in economics, everybody, there is a policy that we believe in a rational behavior. Whatever decision we take in the economic sense, it should be a complete rational decision. Now there is a proper definition. Adam Smith recognized economics as a science of wealth, which studies the process of production, consumption and accumulation of wealth. Then there is kind of a subdiscipline that is economic sociology, and the examples that you can talk about is, suppose I'll take an example of industrial revolution only. Industrial revolution only. So when we talk about the industrial revolution, the whole economic relationship changed, that I told you way back in lecture 1. That economic relation changed how? Now there is an existence of private property, focus upon profit maximization, surplus generation. Okay. Rational decision making process, and all this is to what? To accumulate more and more wealth. More and more wealth. Because this industrial revolution signifies what? Kind of capitalistic ideology, where there is no government intervention, and everything is everything, all the prices are determined by, as per law of supply and demand. Supply and demand, like that. Okay. Now, key thinkers who combined sociology and economics. First one is Max Weber. How he combined this thing. What he did is that he made a very, very landmark study on how religion is connected with economics. So he said Protestant ethics is directly proportional to the rise of capitalism. This again will be talking in lot of detail in our unit 4. So I'm just giving a brief idea. And this had a major impact on society. Because religion, Protestant ethic basically is a religion. It's a kind of religion, a breakaway group from Roman Catholic Church, who believed that we should focus upon this word. Don't focus upon other worldly goals. Focus upon this worldly goals. Whatever work you do, try to excel in that work. And just because you have this focus, you focus upon rationality, you always focus to excel in whatever work you do, it leads to the rise of capitalism. And this whole idea is concerned with society. So see how he is connecting sociology with economics also. Okay. Then comes Pierre Bourdieu. He talked about cost of externalities. Externalities means like what are the consequences? Consequences could be positive, consequences could be negative. Okay. So suppose you are setting up any project you are setting up. So project will, if you talk about the positive externalities, it will create jobs. Okay, it will help in the overall development of a particular area, but there should be negative externalities also, like it creates lot of pollution. Okay, pollution of air, pollution of sound, maybe pollution of groundwater table and all those things you can say. Okay. So when we talk about the overall externalities here, you can simply say that what impact does it have on the society. So whenever we talk about any project, we remember we still have this provision of environment impact assessment report. So what impact does it have on the society? How many people will be displaced? How the local environment will be changed? So this environment impact assessment comes under the purview of sociology. Okay. Then comes Maurice Ginsburg, who talks about economic behavior and emotional factors. What he says is that whenever we take economic decision, it is so based on rational behavior, but sometimes the emotional factors are also included here. Emotional factors are also included here. Okay. And how? Suppose we say, they talk about company Tata, we talk about company Maruti, a car company Maruti. So suppose you want to buy a car which is affordable, at the same time requires less maintenance. So economically you'll go for a car which is economical for you. You don't have to spend so much for the maintenance of the car. At the same time, you have that emotional bond also, you have that connect also, that yes, I trust this company. That is why I'm buying this company, because this company always symbolizes lot of affordability. It symbolizes trust. You have trust in this company. So when you have that trust, that emotional factors also comes into play. Okay. And plus you can also say that it is our own indigenous company. Okay, make in India company, it is our India company, so we should buy an Indian car only. Okay, not any foreign brand car. Then next is Alfred Marshall, study of human and deals with the activities in social setup. So whenever we talk about study of man, so whenever you study any particular human, you also deal with the activities in his or her social setup. What does it mean? That how human to human interaction is taking place in any social setup. Like you go to any slum, just imagine how they'll interact with each other. What kind of an economic relationship they'll be having. They'll always indulge in low cost transaction. Low cost transaction. they'll always focus upon, if there's some kind of an industry, they'll always focus upon low production, less technology, or you can say rudimentary technology. So you'll never find a people who are talking about the crores, millions or billions in a slum area. But if you go to any posh area, the people will be talking about millions and billions of transactions. So their social environment determines how they're going to interact with each other. Okay, so kind of economic relation they'll be having is determined by their social milieu. Okay, so this is how you connect things. Any doubt till now? Now, I'll be talking about mutual relationship between sociology and economy, just like I talked about sociology versus political science. So first thing first is interdependent. Again, I'm creating certain fodder points for you. Interdependent means that I'll give an example. Suppose an interdependent, I'm trying to explain it to you like both economy and sociology, they will try to explain their theories or concept using each other concepts and theories. Like if you talk about poverty, so basically we deal with poverty in economics. So how economy will define poverty or explain poverty, why the people are poor? So basically they will talk about things like sun meta preference, a important social factor. Already the people are trying to feed themselves, but because of sun they are reproducing again and again. Okay, unless until they have a sufficient amount of sun, sufficient number of sun, whatever, maybe 1 2 3. So because of sun meta preference, more children are born and thus more mouth are there to feed. Okay, so this is how you connect, because social factor is very important. How the woman is judged, what kind of a status she enjoys after marriage depends upon how many sons she has. Okay, so that is why sun meta preference, because sun gives a kind of a thing like transformation of property, okay, that carrying of the lineage, okay, this all things because the society is designed like that. Okay, so poverty in economics can be simply explained using sun meta preference. Okay, I hope you get it. Next, if you look here, like division of labor, okay, even division of labor could be explained using sociological theory. Division of labor, which we study in sociology, it could be studied using economics, which means division of labor means what? As the division of labor increases, the tasks are assigned on the basis of specialization. So as a result, what? The overall efficiency is ensured. Overall efficiency is ensured. Okay, because optimum utilization of resources, each and everyone is doing their own task in which they have specialized. So efficiency is ensured and the product is made. When the product is made, it is of high quality. And it is also ensuring what? Increased solidarity. Increased solidarity, like that. Okay, so I hope you are able to connect things. Next we talk about is a common focus, holistic understanding. Suppose I am talking about any particular things, okay, any particular thing I'm talking about, like for that matter, if I'm talking about disaster, it's a very good example. Whatever example I'm giving it to you, you simply just jot it down. Okay, so when we talk about these things like disaster, so when we connect disaster, we say that whenever a disaster, some kind of a tsunami, earthquake happens, so it leads to what? Economic property is lost. economic property is lost. Okay, there's an economic loss. But to have a holistic understanding about the disaster, you also need to understand that whenever a disaster strike any particular area, society or a country, it is the people who are poor, they are the people who are most vulnerable and suffers the most. So it increases what? Further social inequality, because these are the people, the poor people suffers most. So as the property gets destroyed, the social inequality increases most. Okay, when the social inequality increases most, it has a cascading effect. Okay, it has a cascading effect. Now, because they have less money, less property, they have family members to feed. Now, if they have a girl child here, so what they'll do? They'll indulge in child marriage. Let's marry a girl child so that we have a less mouth to feed. Less mouth to feed. This is a kind of a correlation that was found in one of the studies by the US University, where they talk about that when a disaster struck, the poor family, they became more poor, and since they have the family to feed, and if they have a girl child, the girl child, incidences of girl child marriage increases. Okay, similarly, if you talk about dowry, there's an economic explanation, there's a sociological explanation. Economic sociological explanation means that they're always considered, girls are always considered a burden on the family. So since they are considered a burden on the family and they don't have that much of muscle power, or for that matter, they are considered less superior, less compared to men. So they have to be fed throughout life, because prime activity of women is generally to take care of domestic sphere, procreation, taking, rearing and caring the children. So some kind of a wealth has to be given to them or to the groom's family, so that they'll be able to sustain a particular women who is coming and getting married, coming into their family. So this is how you try to envisage things. Then we have role in understanding social changes. Again, some further points like, see, when Britishers came, what happened? They introduced certain economic policies like land reforms. And because of land reforms, land tenure system, there was a rise of certain class like zamindars, merchants, etc. And because of this, these people who now got rich, compared with the modern education which was introduced by Britishers, now they were exposed to the liberal ideas, and slowly started bringing change in the society. And now these people only started retaliating ultimately against the Britishers. So that is why you see the earlier social reformers, they were exposed to the modern ideas, because when the Britishers introduced kind of modern education, land tenure system, even modern education had certain economic connotation, because their ideal line was to make sure that they have certain class of people who could help Britishers to man the whole administration, because it will be economically not feasible for Britishers to bring all the people, all the Britishers from their country to the India to man the administration. It will be more and more economically sustainable if these people can be trained, local people could be trained to man the administration, that to the lower rung of the administration. The topmost posts were always filled by the Britishers. Okay, any doubt till now? Okay, then we have interrelated. Okay, when we talk about interrelated, what does interrelated means? So both study the same phenomena from different angle. Like suppose if I'm giving any particular program, Jan Dhan Yojana, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, Okay, so suppose I'm taking Jandhan Yojana only, so it has certain economic angle, that everyone will have some kind of a bank account, certain money will be deposited in the bank account. But sociology will talk about overall empowerment of certain class of people, okay, where they will have access to the credit, easy access to the credit, because most of the poor people don't have access to the credit, because of which they go for informal banking services, and where they are taking the money at a very high interest rate. So access to the easy access to the credit. Then you can also talk about pension facilities, all these things you can say. So it will have a very positive impact on this. So this you can talk about the mutual relationship between sociology and economy. Now we talk about the differences between economics and sociology. Again, certain further points I'm giving it to you. Yes, certain further points. See, area of study. Again, sociology, if you look here, it is dealing with society, social institutions, human-to-human interaction, while economics, it is primarily dealing with production, consumption, distribution of goods and services. Here, nature is more abstract, because every human, because I have to write the differences, so I'm talking about nature in the sense that we have to deal with human-to-human interaction, which is very abstract. Okay, you cannot define in a particular rule or formula. But here it is very concrete. You can come up with a formula. Okay, you can talk about absolute numbers, like how many people, what is the GDP of the nation, what is the growth rate of the nation, like that. Okay, focus is all aspects of society, including social institution, political institutions, everything. That is why the scope is very broad. But here it talks about economic aspect, and generally it is narrow, because primarily we're dealing with economic institutions only. Unit of study is both society and individual. Here we are primarily dealing with individuals only, primarily, because I have to talk about the differences, so that is why I have carved out the points like that. Then method is both quantitative and qualitative. Here mostly we give a number when we talk about the economics. So number when we talk about, so we talk about the quantitative methods. Okay. Now we talk about the economic sociology. Economic sociology is the application of sociological method to understand the production, distribution, exchange and consumption of goods and services. Okay, so application of sociological methods, like there has to be a sense of coordination. That is where you can use the word, as I gave you with respect to Emil Durkheim, is organic solidarity. Organic solidarity. People are indulging in those tasks in which they have a specialization. Okay, so there is a kind of a coordination. Just imagine one more word that you can talk about is Jajmani system. How whole economic system used to sustain in the earlier era, like the works were divided as per the caste, like Bhubi, then Kumhar, you can say carpenter, blacksmith, sonar, like this. So there is a kind of an interdependence between each other, and this was able to help what overall sustenance of the society, overall sustenance of the economic system. Like this you can talk about Jajmani system, where people of the upper caste, they were given certain services from the people by the lower caste as per their specialization. So that is why Jajmani system means Jajmans. Okay. Now Karl Marx, how he combined economics with sociology, because he was talking about social theory. He gave his social theory on the basis of economic inequality. On the basis of economic inequality, he gave his theory about society. Okay. Now, when we talk about these things, he says what? As I mentioned to you earlier also, he divided society into two parts: base and superstructure. This is economic institution, and anything apart from economic institutions like political institutions, religion, family, marriage, education, everything falls in the superstructure, and both these things is a part of society. So see how he radically viewed the society. The society consists of two parts, and it is the economic institution which is influencing the superstructure. So the kind of economic institution we have, whether we have capitalistic system, feudalistic system, or we can say agriculture based economy, or you can say ancient based society, different kind of economic system we have, it will also impact politics. That economic institution will make sure that it has the conducive political institution to survive that kind of economic system. So if there's a capitalistic system, so political institution will be like that it will support capitalistic system. Religion will be like that, it will support capitalistic system, like that. Okay. So how is he combining? He's giving lot of importance to this economic system. It's like a base, a foundation. Okay. So he's giving lot of importance to this economic institution. So this is how he's giving example or combining economic with sociology. And using this analogy only, he talked about the evolution of society from primitive communism to ancient society to feudal society to capitalistic society to ultimately communism. This again I'll talk about in our unit 4 when I'll talk about Karl Marx. Then certain very beautiful example of economic sociology. Okay, certain very good examples, just like cow dung economy. You might have been using Amazon, Flipkart, all those things. So if you have used all those things, you might have come across that cow dungs are being sold there. Okay, cow dungs are being sold there. But cow dung has lot of significance as far as Indian society, particularly in Hinduism. So when you talk about the cow dung, people here buy it. Okay, they simply buy it. Okay, why? Because it has lot of significance. It can be used for multiple purposes. Okay, so cow dung economy, that you can use it. But maybe the cow dung is not a very rational decision to sell it in another country. Okay, like Kula exchange. Kula exchange means among Pacific Islander. It's a kind of a shell and the ring that is being exchanged between the tribal people, in the Pacific Islander. And it means what? Whatever shells, suppose when you're exchanging the shells, you're exchanging the rings. So if you're exchanging shell from one person to another person, you're exchanging it. So if the quality of shell is high, so your economic significance or overall importance is far more higher. And whenever you exchange, because any kind of an exchange is kind of what? A kind of an economic system only. It might be barter system, right? So whenever you exchange, it is showing a kind of economic system. And whenever you exchange ring or shell among two people, when the exchange takes place, it also shows a kind of a relationship between them, a lifelong relationship. Whether it comes to celebration, when it comes to distress, they will always come together and help each other out. Okay. Then comes Potlatch ceremony of Coquitoul Indians. This is a tribe in Northern America. Here what you can say is Potlatch is that here the tribal people, they simply give away their belongings. Whatever they have, they'll give away. They'll give away their belongings, or for that matter, they will destroy their belongings. So you'll say that this tribal people, okay, these tribal people might not have that much of property or something, but whatever they have, they destroy it. And it has a social significance. Why they destroy it? They destroy it because whenever they destroy their property, it increases their social status in the society. Whenever the more you give, the more you distribute, it increases your social status, like that. Okay. Similarly, in economic sociology, you can talk about certain things, understanding. Okay, just like you can talk about certain words, like unemployment. So generally, when we talk about unemployment, we say it has certain economic factors, it has certain social factors, like child labor. Economic factors, social factors. Now I want you to think and come up with certain points for both this economic factor, social factor for unemployment. So when it comes to unemployment, you can say with respect to economic factor is that you may say that is a less job, right? Less jobs. The availability of the job is not that much good. In terms of social factors, you can say that unemployment is there because of certain social factors like rapid increase in population. So too much stress on the resources. Then you can say degrading social status. Okay, we can talk about nepotism, favoritism. That is also on the social factor. Then again, you can talk about things like maybe you are ill, illness. Okay, you met with some kind of an accident. Okay, some kind of a disability is there. Then you can also talk about drawbacks in educational system. In educational system, like that. Okay, similarly for child labor also you can say that why the child labor is prevalent. First of all, that child labor in terms of economics, you can say that it is prevalent because they can be employed for less payment or less wages, which is economically rational. But what is the social factor? Social factor is that culture sometimes you can say prevent them to educate, to get educated, to get education. So even sometimes culture also promote the fact that child, if they are free, they should help their parents go and work out in the field. So culture itself promotes child labor, especially among the poor class people. Then you can also talk about things like they have no unions. They have no unions. Nobody will fight for them, like that. Okay, so this is how you start with respect to sociology versus economics and what is economic sociology. Now I'm talking about psychology. Okay, psychology. Any doubt till now? Any doubt? Any doubt till now, friends? Now I'll talk about the psychology part. See, what is psychology? How the people think, feel and behave. This is called psychology. Way of thinking, feeling, behaving. That is called psychology. Now given a proper definition, use this definition. According to Barron, psychology is the science of behavior and the cognitive processes. Psychology emphasizes on the process that occurs inside the individual mind. We are talking about the individual mind, such as perception, how we believe things, how we understand our world, how we develop a knowledge, emotions and the consequence of these processes on the social environment. Okay, now what is the overall subject matter of psychology? It is about emotions, it is about memory, it is about learning, it is about consciousness, decision making process, perception, all these things. I'll again repeat, perception is about decision making process, consciousness, learning, all these things are the psychology. Now this is a very beautiful statement that is given by Girth and Mills. Okay, Girth and Mills. Use this line if possible whenever a question comes. That Girth and Mills says that social psychology, he is talking about again an intersection, sociology and psychology. See, when you talk about economic sociology also, sociology, economics. Okay, so I'm talking about this part. I'm talking about this part. Okay, so Girth and Mills says that social psychology is an interplay between individual character and social character, and it can be approached either from the side of sociology or from the side of biology. They use the concept of role as a meeting point of individual organism and social structure. So here again I'm saying social psychology is an interplay between individual, remember the word individual, from the side individual character and the social character. So suppose these are two extreme lines and this is where your role is. Okay, Now suppose a person is a husband. So this is basically individual psychology, and this is social factors. So role always lies in between. Whether you go from this side, you go from this side, your role as a husband, how you behave as a husband, is driven by both the social factor. Okay, that is why it is their social character, what is expected from you, how you behave as a husband, and also the individual character, like what is society expecting out of you and how will you fulfill that expectation, because every individual is unique in their own way. So how to fulfill that expectation that society is expecting from you. So always role is lies in between. So whether you go from this side or you go from this side, okay, it's an equidistance. Then comes thinkers associated. See, Max Weber, though I have given you a kind of an idea when I was talking about the scope of sociology, he was talking about what? Max Weber, a renowned sociologist, he was saying that any social behavior should be taking into consideration individual meanings and motives. Like how an individual is behaving, that should be completely driven by individual meanings and motives. My voice, is my voice proper now? Friends, is my voice proper? Am I audible now? Am I audible? If there is any issue, then do let me know about the voice. So what I'll be doing is that whenever a person behaves in a society, the individual meanings and motives should be taken into consideration. And when you talk about individual meanings and motives, how a person will behave in any particular situation, that is driven by the psychology of that person. So again, a kind of a intersection between sociology and psychology. Then comes Alfred Schutz. He was a phenomenologist. What he did is that he was an anti-positivist. You remember I talked about positivist, that individuals behave as per the societal laws, societal rules and regulation. And he said that everyone mind is different, and he was focusing upon totally individual mind. Every mind is different, and thus they will behave in a completely different manner. You cannot come up with a general law like positivists want to do. And thus, suppose I'm saying an example of marriage. So for everyone, marriage is a different thing. For some people, they'll get married because society is pressurizing them. For some people, they might get married to find a companionship. For some people, they might get married for sexual gratification. For some people, they might get married and take a very rational decision. Okay, like how my life would be in terms of wealth, in terms of comfort after marriage. Okay, so for everyone, getting married, forming a family is a different experience altogether. For different reason, they engage in marriage and forms a family. Okay. Then comes G.H. Mead. G.H. Mead was also talking about, he was a symbolic interactionist. This all thing will become more clear as we move on in the lectures, in our lecture series, in our foundation course. G.H. Mead was saying that how we interpret different signs and languages. What he said, that humans actually interact using signs and languages, and these signs and languages are the symbols. And among the symbols, it is the language which is most important. What kind of a language we use and how we interpret them, and these meanings we attach to this language keeps on changing through continuous interaction. Suppose the example that I keep on giving is, suppose you interact with a dog for the first time. Just take a hypothetical situation that you're interacting with a dog for the first time. Okay, so suppose the dog is very cuddly, very friendly. So you will make an impression. The moment you hear the word dog, you will have that impression that dogs are very cuddly animal, very friendly animal. So whenever you use the word dog, you hear this word. So you will interpret certain meanings. But next time when you meet a dog and suppose that dog has bitten you, the interpretation will completely change now. Okay, and every person will interpret in their own way. So a person who is next time bitten by a dog might have this interpretation now that dogs, we have to stay away from the dog. They'll be scared of the dog. The moment they'll hear the word dog, their whole body language will change. But yet another person might say that no, it might be his fault only, his or her fault only, that's why the dog has bitten. So again, you're focusing upon what? Signs and symbols, and how humans are interpreting that signs and symbols. Okay, so they are not driven by societal rules and regulations, right? So that is why you see some people like in the foreign, they even have a pet like lions and animals. Though generally lot of people, they are afraid of lions and tigers. Okay? Then we have a mutual relationship between sociology and psychology. The first thing is common focus. Now when we talk about the common focus, there are certain things which I'll say is that for any particular thing, suppose I am talking about crime against Dalits. So there must be some kind of a social factors, because there is a prevalence of the caste system. Plus there are certain psychological factors also. And that psychological factor may be, that is why some people perpetuate, or you can say commit some kind of an atrocities against Dalits, but not everybody will commit atrocities against Dalits. Okay, because they will not follow the notion of the caste system. Okay, psychologically, basically they'll believe that these people are inferior compared to the higher caste people. When you talk about the social factors, because the Varna system, which has been in prevalence for so many thousands of years. So that is why, to have a holistic understanding of any particular thing, okay, for holistic understanding of any particular thing, basically we try to delve both into social factor and psychological factors. For that matter, crime against women, crime against children, anything that you can talk about, suicide. Okay, then we have an interrelated things. Now when you talk about the interrelated things, you can here talk about like sociology and psychology, they have certain common topics, and both these common topics are studied in their own way, given their own explanation. For example, here deviance is that when you break societal rules and regulations, like you're not following the caste norms and you go and get married to interreligious marriage or intercaste marriage, so that is called a deviant tendencies. So when there's a deviant tendency, psychologist will give another explanation and sociologist will give another explanation. Like sociologist R.K. Merton, who said that people indulge in deviant tendency when there's an anomic condition. And psychologists like Sigmund Freud, very renowned psychologist, who said that people might get indulged in deviant tendencies because of sheer anger, frustration, mental disposition, like that. So one person is giving a psychological angle, other person is giving a social reason. Okay, social anomic condition means that when society talks about that you have to become an IAS officer, but the society does not provide you proper means to achieve that goal, which is glorified by the society, then there's a mismatch between the goal and the means. And when there's a mismatch, then anomic condition arises. This is how we talk about things. Okay, we'll talk about anomic condition in a lot of detail when we talk about archetype in our unit 4. Then we have methods and techniques. See, both psychology as well as sociology use the same methods and techniques to collect data. Just like we say surveys, we talk about detailed questionnaire, we talk about personal interviews. Then we have study of human behavior and thought process. Okay, when we talk about study of human behavior and thought process, you can say that suppose there is any particular thing. Suppose if I'm taking an example of capitalistic society only. Okay, capitalist society, because capitalistic ideology is a part of society, so we have a capitalist society. So it might have certain positive or the negative things, right? So we say it has certain negative things like economic inequality, right? Plus overall the life of working class people is deplorable. Okay, because in capitalism what is there, the notion of private property, and most of the private property is at the hand of the is in the hand of the minority or group of people, that is called bourgeoisie class. So life of working class people is completely deplorable, very bad condition. But at the same time, if some people have this notion, okay, other people might have a different understanding of capitalistic society, because it depends upon the psychology. And I'm talking about this capitalistic society because this itself is sociology. Now when you talk about the positive things, you can say that some people may say that capitalism, it is a place where one can earn huge amount of wealth because there is no government intervention. So it's a place where one can gain lot of wealth. Okay, plus this is also good. Why? Because there's a lot of competition, there's no government intervention. When there's a lot of competition, consumer will get a very good quality of product at a very competitive price. So this is how you can talk about how every person will have different notion about the capitalistic society. Okay, then we have interdependence. Okay, yes, interdependence. Now when we talk about the interdependence, we say that how both sociology and psychology is interconnected. Let's take an example. Suppose you are living in a patriarchal society, and now being a boy, you always keep poking your sister that you should not go outside after 8 p.m, checking their dress code, interaction pattern. You're trying to be very bossy, controlling all dimensions of your sister's life. Okay, so all of a sudden you have that revelation that I might be suffering from some kind of a psychological issues, that why I'm being so dominating in life, is especially with respect to my sister. So when you go and meet a counselor, they themselves reveal it to you that more of a psychological, your psychology is driven by a kind of socialization that you went up through. Socialization means way of acting which is acceptable to society. So ever since you are born, you have been socialized to believe that you are superior compared to girls. It is you who have to carry the lineage of the family. You have to take care of the family. You have to make sure that the honor of the family is restored, and honor of the family is always connected with the women. Okay, so this is how sociology, where we talk about socialization, it is also connected with your psychology. So this is how you can talk about things. I hope you have understood what I try to convey to you. Any doubt till now? Now I'm giving you certain differences. See, areas of study look into collective behavior, society as a whole. They talk about psychology, basically talks about individual behavior, society, social institution, human to human interaction, emotions, passions, fears at individual level. The scope is very broad because we are dealing with not only individuals, we are also dealing with family, marriage, social factors and everything. Here it is narrow because we are only dealing with the individual behavior. Scientific, sometimes it is debatable, it is not debatable because I have to generate further points in terms of contrasting points. So I'm talking about debatable. And here we say psychology because we have certain tests, okay, through which we say that it is scientific in nature, through which you are able to understand the psychology of a person. Okay. Now, social psychology. Now, what is social psychology? Social psychology is that how you behave in a social context. What is your behavior? What is going in your mind when you are in a particular social context? So how you behave is driven by your social context. So that is why you behave differently when you are in office, when you are with friends, when you are with family, and when you are alone. So it is completely driven by your social milieu. Then we have a formal definition, Barron and Bryan definition that I am giving it to you, that defines social psychology as the scientific field that seeks to understand the nature and the causes of individual behavior in social situation. What is the nature? What is the causes? Why you are behaving in that particular manner in any particular social context? Then talk about the subject matter. Subject matter is basically you are studying individual in social context. Then what is the utility in present society? You remember in very first lecture I was talking about industrial revolution, I was talking about French revolution, I was talking about scientific revolution. So when I was talking about, I hope you are able to connect things. When I was talking about French revolution, industrial revolution, especially scientific revolution, intellectual influences, Renaissance, Enlightenment, what is David doing? What does David doing? They brought a change in the psychology of the common people. It completely radically changed their thought process, the way of thinking. And as a result, they started retaliating against the feudalistic social order. And thus, feudalistic social order was completely dismantled and the higher order called capitalistic social order came into existence. So what impact, once their mind thought process, their mind is changed, their psychology is changed, now that brought a change in the society. Okay, and when it brought, then there was a change in the society, there's a lot of chaos, and when there was a lot of chaos, there's a need for a separate distinct discipline called sociology. So this is how you connect. Even you can talk about in present context, if suppose this was an earlier example, in present context you can see the role of social media, the influencers, YouTube influencers, Instagram influencers, what we say. So how they influence you, okay, to buy certain product, to propagate certain political ideology, to endorse certain things. So how? Because they are manipulating you. And when suppose any person who is manipulating you to buy certain products, it is going to have a drastic impact on society because it will lead to what? Consumeristic ideology. It is going to impact the environment. It is going to impact the society. The individual's dressing pattern, eating pattern will be completely changed. And accordingly, their interaction pattern will also change. Like that. Okay. Even you see here that how much we get obsessed to look very good. So that's how we manipulate our pictures and put it on the social media. Okay, so the true picture is never put, we post it on the media, right? Now, last thing that we talk about is ethics. Okay. Now, in generally, in very simple language, what is ethics? Ethics is all about values. It is value loaded concept. Okay. What is right? What is wrong? Values what? It is all beliefs which is desirable. Basically, society tells you that what is desirable, what is not desirable. Like values like empathy, truthfulness, honesty, justice, all these things you can talk about. Okay. Now I am giving you a proper definition by Karen L. Rich. It defines ethics as a systematic approach to understanding, analyzing, and distinguishing matters of right and wrong, good and bad, and admirable and deplorable as they relate to the well-being of and the relationship among sentient beings. Okay, a bit of big definition. If you find which is more systematic or you can say this definition, you can write that definition also. Okay. Then what is the subject matter? Here we talk about things like what is right and wrong. Okay, and also how you should behave in any particular social context, right? Now when we talk about things like examples, when we say examples, suppose I am talking about marriage. So when you talk about ethics, okay, ethics basically means values, which itself is derived from kind of society we are. So when we do a study of society, that is sociology, right? The kind of society we are living in, that basically decide the ethical values of the society. So basically, if you are living in an orthodox society, so probably marriage is a sacrament bond which cannot be broken. So divorce is not at all acceptable, right? Maybe if it is orthodox plus patriarchal society, so men will always be superior, and there's a strict division of labor based on sex. Okay, see, there's a difference between sex and gender. Sex is a biological construct, but gender is a cultural concept. Like we say that in gender, we say that women cannot drive a truck, women cannot drive a train, women cannot fly a plane. So here we are talking about gender concept. Women are inferior to men. We are conforming to the gender concept because it's a cultural concept. We have this notion that every time women are inferior to men. This is what we are adhering to. Okay. So the kind of society that we are living in, which itself is a domain of sociology, what we do is that it determines the kind of ethical values we have. So sacrament bond, men will always be superior. But if you have a liberal society, so probably in a liberal society, divorce will be acceptable. And just like here, the domestic work is the sole responsibility of female. Here, the domestic work is a joint responsibility. Joint responsibility. Rearing and caring the child is the joint responsibility. It is not the sole responsibility of a woman. Now, certain thinkers' view. Emil Durkheim. Though I have talked about, given a brief introduction, I'll again tell the same thing. What he was focusing upon, because he was a positivist. So what he was focusing upon is that we need to arrive at law-like generalization, right? And when you have to do an experiment, you have to study any social phenomena, you have to be a very objective frame of mind. So just like in natural science, suppose if I'm studying this pen, so I have no emotional attachment or bond with this pen. Similarly, Emil Durkheim also said in his very famous book, Rules of Sociological Method. rules of sociological method, he said that whenever we study any social phenomena, treat them as a thing, a particular object with whom you have no attachment. You'll be able to study that phenomena like caste system, like patriarchy, like Dalit atrocities, okay, for that matter, child marriage, anything, communal rights, anything that you're studying, suicide rate, religion, anything that you're trying to study it in a very objective frame of mind without any emotional attachment. So when you treat all these social phenomena as a thing, you will be able to do your research in complete value neutral manner. So there is no place for values. You cannot let your values, your belief system to creep in your research, or it will whole contaminate the research data. So he was focusing upon value free sociology. He was focusing upon and propounding value free sociology. And the same value free sociology was also propounded by Max Weber as well. Okay. So see what he was saying. He was saying that values, which is a domain of ethics, should not be combined with sociology, or else it will contaminate your data, right? Similarly, Max Weber was also talking about things. He was also saying that all the sociologists should always confirm for value free sociology and conduct study in value neutral manner. So he coined this term value neutrality. I'll talk about this value neutrality in a lot of detail when I'm talking about Max Weber. And he devised certain methodologies, tools like Verstehen approach, like ideal types. Verstehen approach, ideal types. All these things were a tool to ensure that a researcher will be able to conduct a research in a complete value neutral manner. So don't go with certain values. Okay, suppose you are going to study poverty and you already have this notion, preconceived notion, that the people are poor because they are lazy. So how will we be able to conduct a study in an objective manner? That is very difficult. Suppose if you go with a notion that people who are committing suicide, they are psychologically or mentally disturbed. So how will we be able to conduct a study in a value neutral? Okay, so this is what you need to talk about. Okay. Then comes R.K. Merton. R.K. Merton also gave certain concepts. Okay, R.K. Merton also gave certain concepts. Just a minute. Yes, R.K. Merton also gave certain concepts. Sorry for the interruption. So he was also talking about certain things. I'll just introduce you. He was talking about ethical norms. I'll use another slide. R.K. Merton was talking about ethical norms that should govern the scientific community. And here he talked about kudos. I'll explain to you what exactly in a brief manner. And these norms was telling a kind of a moral guidelines for the scientific community, what is morally right and what is morally wrong. And they are also known as Mertonian norms or institutional imperatives of science. Mertonian's norm, ethical norms, these are same one and the same thing. Kudos. C means communism of knowledge. Like whatever knowledge, new discoveries, new inventions that these researchers are doing, that knowledge should not be appropriated by that researcher for, or not appropriated by any particular private person. That knowledge should be considered as a common heritage of the whole society. That knowledge should be used for the overall benefit of the people. That should not be considered as a private property of that researcher or any particular person. Okay, then you have U for universalism, which means that irrespective of socio-economic, political background of a researcher, whether the researcher is a poor or very rich, whether researcher is a black or white, whether researcher caste is anything, doesn't matter. From whatever political ideology they come from, it doesn't matter. If they have discovered certain really proper new knowledge which is worthwhile, so that knowledge and that researcher should get all the recognition. What matters is like what kind of a knowledge they have generated, what kind of a method they have used to generate that knowledge, and what kind of an argument they have used to back that knowledge. Okay, irrespective of their social, political, economic background. Okay, then we have D. D means disinterestedness, which means that researchers should not be interested to gain any economic wealth from their invention or discoveries. Okay, all that matters for the researchers should be only recognition, prestige. They should be given awards and recognition that they played a very vital role as far as any discovery or invention that had led to the creation of a new knowledge. Their sole motive is overall welfare of the society. They should not try to accrue any kind of an economic benefit from that thing. Okay, and the last one is OS, which means organized skepticism, which means that all the researcher, whenever any particular research comes to them, they should always look at that research findings from a critical point of view. They should not simply accept the research finding at the face value. Suppose you are a researcher and some of your relative have submitted some kind of a thesis and you don't simply accept it. Try to look into what kind of a methodology has been used, what kind of an argument has been given, and look into all the aspects from a critical angle. And then if they are verified on the basis of facts, then only accept that knowledge, or else reject that knowledge. Okay, so look at everything from a critical point of view. So this is called kudos, like what is morally correct or right or wrong for the researcher given by R.K. Merton, known as Mertonian norms, institutional imperatives of norm, ethical norms, whatever you want to call it. Okay, now similarities between ethics and sociology. Any doubt till now? The social conditions, this is what I have been telling earlier also. The kind of society we have, that kind of society decides the ethical value of the society. If we have an orthodox society, we have a very conservative ethical values. Okay, like patriarchy, they'll support marriage. Okay, they'll not support divorce and all those things. Okay, like some society, they support that it's okay to drink. Okay, for other society, drinking is completely prohibited. Just like for some society, euthanasia is allowed. For some society, euthanasia is not allowed. For some society, abortion is allowed. For some society, so abortion is not allowed. Okay, so similarly like that, we talk about things. Okay, I hope you are able to get all those things. Like for some society, same-sex relationship, same-sex marriage is allowed. For other society, same-sex marriage is not allowed. So society to society, ethical values also keeps on changing like that. Then we have intimate connect, which means that sociology leads us to ethics by comparative method. Sociology lead us to ethics by comparative method. Okay, like there is a very famous sociologist Louis Dumont who wrote a book, Homo hierarchicus, and also Homo equalis. Now, Homo hierarchicus basically means that how the humans are arranged in a hierarchical order. Like we can talk about Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra Varna system. Equalis means that how every human is treated equally. So while observing the Indian society, what he said is that here in Indian society, everybody is arranged in a hierarchical order on the basis of their caste. But in Western society, modern Western society, everybody is treated equally. So if you compare the both society, okay, compare both kind of society, because both society comes under the domain of sociology. So you can say that ethically it is wrong to, you can say, create or arrange humans in hierarchical manner. So if there is a stratified system, it is ethically wrong, because everyone deserves to live a dignified life. Everybody deserves the equal access to all the economic facilities, right? So this is how you talk about. Then next point is comprehensive understanding. Now I'll take an example. Suppose we talk about in ethics. Suppose there is a problem of drug addicts. Okay, or maybe a person who is trying to commit suicide. Okay, both the problems, both of them you can take whatever you want. Now drug addicts, ethics basically talks about like how we should treat drug addicts. Shall we go for harsh punishment? How should we treat these people who is trying to commit suicide, who are more prone to committing suicide? So ethics talks about what should be the role of state. Should we put them behind bars, or should we go give them a kind of a help? Because suppose if I'm talking about suicide only, it has certain psychological dimensions, and sociological dimension. Psychological means maybe they are mentally weak, some kind of a disease. Social means maybe society is putting lot of pressure on them. Society is putting lot of pressure. Okay, maybe if you talk about suicide rate among the students in quota, so all the parents, society is putting lot of pressure on them. So social factor is also there. Basically, if you don't do well, if you don't commit, if you don't able to clear prestigious examinations, so everybody will make fun of you. Okay, like that. So what should be the line of action? So we cannot simply put people behind bars, because earlier if any person tries to commit the suicide, they will be put behind the bars. But now the notion has changed, that the people who are trying to commit suicide, just imagine how much mental trauma they might have gone through to take that decision. So they should not be put behind bars. In fact, these are the people who need actual help. We should bring them back, rehabilitate them back to society. The same goes for drug addiction. Okay, drug addiction, it has certain psychological dimension. Just like they are so much addicted, they have got used to it, okay, that they cannot live without drugs. Some social factor is there, that it is very cheaply available. And also there's a mass unemployment. They don't have better things to do, so basically they consume these drugs to ward off their whatever frustration. Okay, so ethics says that we should deal with all these social problems with proper care, right? So social conditions, intimate connect, and comprehensive understanding. Now I'm giving you certain differences also. Yes, scope again very broad. Ethics basically means narrow. Then values. Sociology is a value neutral concept because earlier positivist, I'm talking with respect to positivists, remember that thing. I'm giving this point with respect to positivists because later sociologists like non-positivists or anti-positivists, they started focusing upon that we should give importance to the value of that person. So they focused upon value loaded concept. But since I have to write a difference, so I have given with respect to positivists, it was value neutral. Here, ethics is all about values only. Specialization, it is less specialized because sociology deals with social institutions, political institutions, religious, family, economy, everything. But here, ethics, it is more specialized because it is primarily deal with only and only values and norms of the society. Focus means it talks about means, end, process, and solution. Okay, while here it talks about only means and ends. Means and ends. See, suppose if I'm talking about any kind of a thing, suppose I'm talking about suicide only. Suicide rate. Okay. Means and end. What does it mean? Means like what is the, you can say, scientific methodology. So scientific methodology should be the means to study suicide. Okay. And the end goal is to arrive at law-like generalization. Right? Scientific method is the means. Then what is the process? Process means like step by step, while following scientific method, step by step. First you make an hypothesis, then you collect data, then you analyze the data, and like that. While solution is, suppose you come up with a law. Okay, so with a law, you come up with a certain variables that if solidarity in society becomes very high, so suicide rate will decline. So probably you'll start running a campaign that society becomes more and more cohesive. There should not be much of a conflict. So we talk about the solution also. Here we simply talk about the means to achieve ends, just like we talk about administrative ethics to achieve the public welfare or bureaucracy. Administrative ethics to achieve the public welfare. And then historical data, basically we look into historical data from a larger perspective. Okay, we talk about the social context also, historical context also, political context also. But here we look into only from the ethical perspective. Just like Gandhiji, he basically discontinued the non-cooperation movement because there was an incidence of violence in Chauri Chaura. So that was an ethical perspective because his values never never talked about violent kind of activity. Okay, so this is what we say with respect to the ethics and sociology, and I hope I've given you sufficient further points to answer any kind of a question, because today we have done with respect to political science, economy, psychology, and ethics. Tomorrow I'll be talking about the rest of the topics like anthropology, then I'll talk about history and philosophy. Okay, so with this we have finished today's session, friends, and thank you. Tomorrow again we'll talk about the comparison of sociology with other social science, part 2.